Hello and welcome back to SpecBuilder video tutorials. This time we're going to talk about the so-called business edits. Business edits are pieces of logic which stand outside of or on top of default X12 syntax. So let's just dive into an example and I'll explain what it means and how to create those with SpecBuilder. Our partners from Great Supplies Inc. has sent us yet another data file. So let's take that data file and analyze it. This is another file. We pass through Analyzer, click Next. And now we got the data file, no errors, everything is correct. However, if we take a look at some data within the file, we can see some, I would say, abnormally high amounts in the data file. Maybe they are legitimate, but our management decided that we should put some business threshold to make a signal in case the amount goes beyond certain threshold, just so we do not process the amounts over a certain limit. So how to do that? By default, X12 syntax does not allow such business customizations. And on top of that, we need to produce some custom error in case this huge amount comes in the purchase order. And SpecBuilder allows you to do that through the mechanism called business rules or business edits. All the edits or rules are located in the Rules tab on the right side of the screen. So let's take a quick look at the rules and verify what are they. For every node on the left side, for every piece of specification which we see in the tree form on the left side, we can assign some additional logic to verify the correctness of this field based on certain language or based on certain rules. And the correctness, as I said, stays on top of the default X12 syntax like length, data type, mandatory, optional, and so on. In our case, we need to verify the value of the monetary amount which comes in the AMT segment. To create a new rule, you need to click on this button and you will see this dialog. As you can see, there are many rules that you can create here. The regular expression, which is a special syntax to verify the content of data. Lexical format, it's a bit simplified form of the same thing. You can create the JavaScript rule, which we will do in a few minutes. And this JavaScript rule will verify the correctness of this node or multiple node in conjunction. There are special internal runtime so-called commit rules. We'll skip those for now. And similar to JavaScript, you can code your rules either in Java, which is pretty much any Java method. You can access the database, you can do web service call, anything that Java allows. Or you can use .NET for the same purpose and with the same flexibility. For our current example, we'll just go ahead and use the JavaScript syntax because it's very easy and straightforward. So I clicked OK. As you can see in the list of rules, there is one rule on user node script. Technically, you can create many rules, not just one. So you may have different rule types and so on. So you can create multiple. Now let's take a look at the right side. On the right side, we see two sections. One section is called Global Declaration Script. This stands for all variable declarations, all common functions, which will be shared across all nodes, across all scripts throughout the guideline. For now, I'm just creating the script here, but we'll also extend that in the future to do some additional logic. So all those methods or variables will be accessible from any place of the guideline, from any node. So for now, let's declare some global variable with the threshold. Let's type global amount threshold. and let's make it equal to 100. Now, having this threshold, what we need to do is we need to extract the value from the data node, from the data file, and compare that value to this global amount threshold. So how to do that? We know some basics about JavaScript, but we need to access some special object provided by Edifecs on the runtime. You do not have to remember all that, but I usually use help. So I open SpecBuilder help, and if you navigate to advanced features, JavaScript, EC object, there is an object called EC data link. This object provides easy access to the data content. So I'll just copy and paste that to the script. We'll rename this to just data value. And this will give us the string representation of the data token, which would be some dollar amount. Now what we need to do, since we'll be comparing the values, not the string representations, we'll need to convert that to some double format. So we'll do that with knowing the JavaScript, and it will be parse float function, which will parse the data and will give us the float representation. Now what we're going to do is we need to compare if this amount goes above the global amount threshold, then we need to register an error. And again, in order to do that, we can go back to help and look up the object called EC error container. There are plenty of different methods for different use cases. For simplicity, we'll just use this simple example. So we'll go back to SpecBuilder, type the event, and we'll place the error message like line item with the amount of, and we'll place the actual amount here, exceeds the global threshold of, and we'll copy and paste this value in here, and we'll make it more easier to read. So we created our first rule. Now we're gonna ahead and save the guideline. Let's give it some create supplies rules. There is a slight error here, so we can fix that. And there is one more error. We'll fix that. Now let's switch to analyzer and reanalyze the data. Alright, now we see that there are many line items which exceed this threshold. Maybe this threshold is too low. Let's change that to 1000. That's probably more reasonable. So we changed that to 1000, and this is a global declaration, means whatever script exists, it will reuse that value. Let's go back and reanalyze again. Okay, now we can see that only certain fields exceed 1000 threshold, which is good. We know that information. We can generate a report, as we discussed in the last video, but it's not that easy to understand which exact line item caused this error from just looking at the error message. Let's find something on the purchase order line to take some unique value. One example could be the product ID. So what if we update our script to remember the product ID, and in case there is an error, report that product ID on the line item. So keep in mind that we remember that value in here, which is PO1 segment, but the actual error would go down here to the monetary amount. All that is possible. So SpecBuilder is designed to handle such cases. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the product service ID. We'll need to create a new rule. It will be the script. On the global section, since we have multiple line items, we need to create a global variable. Let's call it last product ID. And on every instance of the node, we'll use last product ID, and we'll assign it the value from data link ms data. So that will remember the last used product ID from the data. Now let's go back to AMT, and we will enhance our error message. Since by now we know the product ID, we can do it this way with product ID last product ID, and the amount exceeds the global threshold. Alright, now let's go back to analyzer and let's reanalyze. Alright, that is much more useful. Now we know that line item with product ID and LN103. So even if we don't have the full detailed report like this, where we have the segment counts, the error counts, the location, and all that, we can still understand where this error is, because we know the product ID line LN108. So that was pretty easy. You can create more sophisticated logic should you need to do so, and you can apply very complex rules on top of the basic X12 validation, X12 syntax. You do not need to use any external applications, anything to do just that. And all that will be part of your reports, human readable reports, XML reports, so all that is integrated into one solid product. Now let's spend a couple minutes to talk about other options in terms of rules. What other rules you can create? As I mentioned, you can create not only JavaScript rules, you can also create the Java and .NET rules. We can go ahead and click on Java. This is just the default UI for adding the Java code. You can choose to implement your Java code. In this case, you will need to add some class. You'll need to declare the class. There are some samples which come with SpecBuilder. You can take them, sample rule, and there are some sample methods in here, so we can click OK. And there is a source preview. You cannot edit that, it's read-only because Java is compilable language, so you need to make the so-called jar file. But this is how you would execute that method in here. It does some logic. We will not actually run this, but it's just for you to know that pretty simply you can add not only the JavaScript code but also the Java to be executed on the runtime. So that concludes the session about the business rules. Go ahead and give it a try. You can create simple or more advanced business rules, but it's all quite easy, and you can use SpecBuilder help to get more information about the certain objects or how to use the rules. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.